Hey everybody, Payments Professor here, and I'm continuing the podcast series on answering for you guys who the different associations and entities and the different organizations that exist in the electronic banking industry, who they are and what they do. And I got to tell you today, we got a great one. We've got Mike Hurd representing Nacha. He's going to help us in a little bit understand who Nacha is, but let's first welcome Mike to the podcast. Mike, welcome to the Payments Podium.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Good to see you again.
Well, good to see you again, too. And he said again because Mike and I actually see each other at a lot of different conferences.
We do, all around the country.
And have worked together for years.
Not in the airport yet, but we have run into each other in the restroom.
Yes, we have. Okay, Mike, number one question I got to ask, and I know listeners are already expecting this, is how did you even get started in electronic payments and end up at Nacha? This is like a question people love to hear because the path to electronic payments, only one person has ever said, when I was a kid, I wanted to be in electronic payments and banking. Only one ever.
And did we believe that person?
Actually, yes. It was Angie Farron from UMacha.
Well,
and the way she said it, I was like,
sense.
wow, okay.
Sense. Yeah, I did not have a background in financial services at all. I was in communications and, way back in the day, you used to look for jobs in the classified section of the newspaper. And I saw the ad and sent my resume into this, association job to be a PR person. And I got the job and it was Nacha. And I had to learn about payments from the ground floor up. But I've been there ever since. It's been over 25 years. And,
well, congratulations on that. I mean,
that
shows some dedication there.
Yeah, but I got to learn everything that Nacha does from the inside, supporting the entire organization. And so it really that was my payments education.
Well, okay, then that really easily leads us to the next question. Because in 25 years, I know you've seen Nacha change, grow, evolve is probably the better word over the years. Because I know when I first started working with Nacha, it was the National ACH Association. And I would say, that explains everything, right? And people are like, no. But now it's just Nacha. It's NACHA, and that represents the organization. But if somebody asks you, who is Nacha, what do you say?
It depends on who it is, right? We are still the National ACH Association, right? We set the operating rules for the ACH system and how it's used and what the roles are and for interoperability. And we provide, world-class payments education for the industry. So, if it's someone in the industry, that's usually a good answer. If it's my neighbor, I say, we help deliver your direct deposit to your account every Friday.
Okay, and that really does simplify it for a lot of people because a lot of people don't understand what ACH is. We've worked a lot on the podcast, the YouTube channel to explain ACH being, automated clearinghouse transactions. And I do the same thing. I'll just say, do you get direct deposit? And
that's exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing most people are familiar with. And then you say, how do you pay your bills, right? And, unless you're my parents, usually they'll have some common experiences with paying their bills online, and that's typically ACH. And so, there are ways to connect and communicate that.
So if I heard you right, too, you said something about the rules for the association. So what do you mean, what rules? There's rules for how all this works?
There are rules for how this works. There are rules for how most things work. But in the in the ACH world, one, it's because we have two operators in the system, the Fed and the clearinghouse. It's really the rules that provide for the exchange and the interoperability and kind of the seamless nature of ACH out to the financial institutions. We really talk about the ACH network as being one network when it's really the interoperability of two networks. But it's so seamless, we barely notice. So rules help with that. Rules also help set the expectation and the requirements for the parties to the transaction, what they're required to do. And, a lot of it governs, what happens when there are exceptions, who's responsible for doing what, and, setting standards so that everyone knows what's expected of them. And also for setting the standards for the information that's contained in the payments themselves. So there's lots of things you can do with rules and standards that, make it easier for participants in the industry to actually make use of what you have to offer.
Well, I had a previous podcast with Sean Carter from Niche where we actually discussed the rulemaking process. And I think it's important people understand Nacha is the one that, when it comes to the request for information, when it comes to actually publishing the rule and all that, Nacha is the one that is actually coordinating, responsible, and has the power, let's even say, to be able to do that. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct, right? So, Sean and Neach and other payment associations are members of Nacha and have a role in the process. We actually do conduct rulemaking in a fairly open and transparent way. We kind of model the rulemaking process on how a government agency would make a rule, which is you develop it and you put it out for public comment, and allow anyone who's interested to opine on it. And did we hit the mark? Did we not hit the mark? Or what needs to change from what we proposed? And then we take it and we spend quite a bit of time kind of reading through everything, deeply and fairly, and then make the call. And when it's time to move forward, we ask the Nacha membership to approve rules.
And I love that process. And what I love to explain to, especially people in the general public that are out there, that it is not something that just willy-nilly Nacha goes, here's a rule and you have to follow it.
Yeah.
You actually listen, monitor, see what's happening in the industry. If there are indicators that things need to be changed or adjusted, you then go through that process, and it can sometimes be a lengthy process, but I understand you do it to help everybody.
At the end of the day, you want to get things right? It's good to be fast, but it's better to be accurately reflecting what the industry wants and needs. And so an open process that is inclusive of hundreds, if not thousands, of participants takes time, right? It can take longer than other ways of making rules. But at the end of the day, you hope to come out with things that have broad industry consensus.
I love that, what you just said there. It's good to be fast, but it's better to be accurate.
Right.
And that's such a true statement. Now, another thing on the rules that people ask me about too is, what's with this rule book? I mean, where I've had people even say, where do I get one?
Yeah.
Which color do I need? Why are there so many different colors of the rule book?
Yeah,
can you help explain
that a little
bit?
Well, every year is a different color, right? So when you see a new color, it's a new year. If you don't have any other way to keep track of your years, you can do it by the Nacha rule book. And you can get one directly from Nacha, but most financial institutions get one from their payment association. And interestingly, even though it's a kind of a big book, so many people in the industry still want to have the big book. If you don't want to have the big book, we offer all the electronic methods that you would expect for being able to access the rules. So, including search features and things like that. So it's people still kind of make fun of the big book, but it has its place, and there are plenty of alternatives available.
Well, I got to tell you, I used to every year look forward to my book arriving in the mail. Getting the actual physical book. I would sit down, go through every part of the book, and there's only slight changes every year for those of you who are out there. It's updated for the new rules and the new changes that happen, and those do happen every year.
Correct.
It's not major changes usually. Right? We did do the revamping in 2009.
Yep.
But typically, I would look forward to getting the book, and I'd go through it. I'm one of those who is converted, and I love the electronic access. I have found it so much easier. The search is incredible.
Yep.
You have the ability to copy, to paste, to really, and tab things and bookmark them.
Right.
Better, in my opinion, than you could the physical book. So I think that one is great.
Yeah, here. I'm with you on that. But, we still have our people that get their book every year, and then they get their sticky notes or their tabbing out, and they go through, and people tab the sections that are most relevant to them, or the ones that they look for the most, and we still have our fans that do that every year.
Yeah, and I was one of those too. You had to tab it. If I'm going to have a physical book, it's got to be tabbed. What about other publications? Because I know Nacha does so much to promote the safety and secureness of the Nacha and ACH network itself. What about other publications?
Yeah, we do develop and offer other publications. Most recently, they have been oriented around risk management. So an update to the risk management guide, and also an update to the compliance manual. So you asked about the rules, and something for the industry to always have top of mind is, are we complying with the rules, and how do we demonstrate that we are complying with the rules? And so having a guide like the compliance guide can help with that. Having, assistance from a payments association can help with that. Obviously, if you're familiar with ACH at all, you know that institutions have to do an annual rules compliance audit. So that's kind of like a framework for how we encourage and promote compliance with the rules. And then on the risk side, right? Risk management should be top of mind every day. Innovation is the fun stuff. Risk management is the necessary stuff, right? So continually providing the latest and greatest information and best practices and recommendations on the risk management front is also, very important for the industry.
Something just came to mind, especially when you mentioned risk management, that I think is highly important to get out there and help the people understand. And that is this simple question: does Nacha actually process any transactions, or do you just make the rules?
Good question. We are not a transaction processor. Payments do not flow through Nacha. I know I hear it called the Nacha system, right, or the Nacha network. But the system operators are the clearinghouse and the Federal Reserve. Nacha is the governing body, the rule maker, the standard setter. So payments do not flow through Nacha. Occasionally we'll have somebody who maybe is not familiar say, hey, we'd love to come visit your campus and see your ops center. And we have a very small ops center. It's the email server and the web server.
So, you focus on just making sure the rules are there, safety, soundness, security of the network, some education too. And the reason I bring that up is I know that there's been a lot of times that these emails come in. They're scam emails. Everybody, if you get an email from Nacha and it's not promoting some educational services or something, it's saying something like, your payment has been held, please contact us. That's a scam, because Nacha does not process transactions.
That's correct.
They just oversee the rules for it.
That's correct. And, apply your sensibilities and your zero trust stance on everything, right? Including if it's Nacha saying we need to hear from you to release your payment.
Something else. I know people listening, and you mentioned the books, and you said you could come to us, but most people actually go to the payment associations. You actually said financial institutions. So what I'd like to clarify is, it is possible to become a member of Nacha.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
know the pigeon company I work with is a member of Nacha.
Correct.
Who becomes actual members? Is it individual people?
Yeah, it's organizations, but we have a number of different membership programs. Our direct members are financial institutions and the payments associations that represent them. We have other membership programs that any organization can join. We have the Payments Innovation Alliance, which brings together diverse stakeholders, FIs, fintechs, other solution providers, corporate users, consultants, law firms, you name it. They come together to identify and talk through the latest trends in the payments industry and the latest technologies that could impact the payments industry. And you kind of elevate their knowledge about all those things to stay competitive, or to figure out how to use those to deliver products and services. We also have an affiliate membership program, which is an information-rich way to stay informed about things going on at Nacha and the ACH system, and that's really suited for entities that really just want to stay informed, but perhaps don't want to travel to attend meetings. So we do have a number of membership programs to accommodate kind of like the entirety of the ACH and payments ecosystems.
And I love you mentioned Payments Innovation Alliance. I'm going to have to get somebody to do an entire podcast just on that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of what the Innovation Alliance does, and it's amazing to be a member of. So, but those of you out there listening, if you think as an individual you need to go join Nacha, you probably don't. What you would look at the organizations in the electronic payments that you work with, and they actually should, if it's a fintech, if it's a processor, or a financial institution, a bank or a credit union, you can look at that and also look at your payment associations. In mentioning, though, Payments Innovation Alliance and some of the publications, that makes me think about the education that you do over at Nacha, and some of the other events like the Payments Conference. It's the Faster, Better Payments Conference that we have every year. Can you tell us a little bit about that conference?
Well, payments education is is so critical to keeping up with what's going on, learning what's new in the industry, how to manage your own business, how to manage your own risk. And Nacha really is a world-class provider of payments education. We have an annual conference, typically in the spring, in the April to May timeframe. Next year's is in Miami Beach in May. Who does not want to go to Miami Beach? Please come on out to the Smarter, Faster Payments Conference in May of 2024. And it's really where we bring together virtually the entire industry, and it's our 3 days of learning and fun and networking to just talk about any and all things payments. And so if it's dipping your toe in for the first time, I'd highly recommend it. People that come to the payments conference generally become lifers and don't want to miss out on any year. So it's well worth it.
There's no doubt. Payments Professor highly endorses this one. It is the one conference that goes on my calendar first every year that I know I'm going to be at. I know I've got to make it to, because it's not just people in the industry, it's people around the world that actually come to this conference. It is the cream of the cream when it comes to the sessions, what you're going to be able to learn, who you're going to rub elbows with and get to meet. Love that conference. And I love that you said lifers, because I'm sitting there thinking, I can't even tell you exactly how many I've been to,
right.
But I look forward to it every year. Premier event. Another one, you got the Payments Institute.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the Payments Institute and the Payments Conference?
Yeah, the Payments Institute is really oriented towards professionals who, want to dive deep, right? They want to learn how the plumbing works in all the various payment systems. They want to learn about the law and how it applies, right? So the Payments Conference will get you, one level, and the Payments Institute is just so much above and beyond. It's really an intensive, 3-day course of study. It's like getting a master's degree, to tell you the truth. So if that's one of your objectives in your career, or you just can't help yourself, you're a nerd or a geek or a professor, and and right, you just have the desire and the dream to study about the payment system. The Payments Institute, TPI, it's for you.
Yeah, and I agree. At the Payments Institute, that's where, if there's that one little bullet or footnote in the ACH rules book you've got questions about, they go that deep into the information and the explanation of what's there, why it's there, how it works and what it means.
I never know from an analogy whether we go above and beyond or we go deep. Which way is it?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Both events are premier events within the industry. Everybody should be considering if you want to advance your careers. But I know another thing that helps advance careers is certification.
Absolutely.
And I know Nacha is really big on a couple of different certifications. In fact, there's a third one going to be coming out. But can you tell us about maybe the AAP or the APRP?
Yeah, certifications are also important to professional development and career advancement. The original one from, the origins of the ACH system is the accredited ACH professional program. This is something Nacha has offered for decades. The AAP exam, AAP is what we call it. AAP exam is offered every year in October. So if you're taking it this year, you're already signed up. You already know it. But there's always next year, right? And look, we have more than 4,700 AAPs nationwide. We had 251 people earn AAP accreditation the last exam period. We'll see what happens this year, and that's kind of like the foundational for payments accreditation and specifically ACH accreditation.
I know a lot of organizations, it's actually a requirement for advancement and sometimes even to get hired on to certain positions.
Yeah, sometimes in career development, right? Sometimes in career development, getting an industry certification or designation is critical for advancement. Or, you see a lot of, job and recruiting announcements who are looking for those kinds of designations in candidates that they bring on. I think more recently we expanded recognizing the importance of risk management, not just in the ACH world, but in payments in general. And we created the Accredited Payments Risk Professional Program. And we now have 717 APRPs, including 145 professionals that just earned APRP designation this past exam cycle, which was in August. We offer that exam every August. So the opportunity to become an APRP will be fast approaching once again, particularly when you think about the time that you should spend preparing for that exam. It's just around the corner. So I encourage that. And then the newest that you referenced, in the faster payment space, we've already set up in conjunction with the payment associations a faster payments professional certificate, which is just taking a couple of courses offered by any of the payments association. But in conjunction with the associations and also the U.S. Faster Payments Council, we are creating the accredited faster payments professional designation. And the first AFPP certificate, or I should say accreditation opportunity exam, is targeted to launch in early 2025, which might seem like a long way away unless you want to be one of the early ones to get it, and you should be in 2024. That should be on your course of study and on your plan of work and in your budget, so that you can be one of the early people to register for and take that exam in early 2025.
Now, we've already mentioned the education that Nacha offers, like TPI, which is great for if you want to learn to be an AAP, an APRP, or even get the faster payment certificate. Is there anywhere else that Nacha recommends people should go to get that certification education or education preparation?
Yeah,
for the
I've talked. I think I've mentioned a number of times that the payment associations. These are organizations that represent large numbers of financial institutions, specifically in the payments arena, and are members of Nacha directly. And they really offer a ton of payments education, including their own conferences, but also the courses to prepare for these accreditation exams. Right, so if you are intending to get an AAP or an APRP, or you want to be early adopter of the AFPP, if you can keep all those acronyms straight, the payment associations is really where you want to go to study for those exams, right? To get the course material and to get the assistance and to have study groups with others who are going to be taking those exams in the same cycle. It's like having your own, study groups when you were back in school, right? We're going to study for the exam together, right? It really is kind of like that. So, the payment associations really are, your number one source to go to for that kind of training and assistance.
And there are, for those of you listening, multiple podcasts that I've made available: Niche, Matcha, Payments First, WestPay, EPCOR. If you're wondering who these organizations are, go listen to the podcast. You can learn more about them, and then go to their websites. You can become members, and you can access all of this. Right. Mike, I got to say, I am just blown away by everything that Nacha does, and the fact you've been there 25 years. So my next question to you is, in the 25 years you've been there, what would you say has been the biggest change, the biggest wow, type moment of the incredible growth that has happened over those years to take Nacha to where it is now with billions of transactions being processed? So
when I joined Nacha, we had already done away with magnetic tape, so I can't give you that one. I haven't been there that long. You asked for one, so I have two, but I'll give you one.
Well, let's hear two. I'd love it.
Well, I think one is same day ACH, right? Yeah. I think same day ACH, really is the ACH system that Notch is offering into faster payments in particular, to support, the digital economy of the 21st century. And, adoption has been pretty robust, but even still, I think it's still kind of in the early days of, how a same day ACH is going to get used. And, it's been a better part of my career on the network side at Nacha, the ACH actual side, in getting, same day ACH up and running and off the ground and getting it adopted out in the industry, but then also expanding its capabilities, adding additional use cases, making it available for longer hours, increasing the dollar limits, getting funds available faster, all those things that kind of go along with it. And that journey is not complete yet. We're still, kind of looking and thinking through, what's next for same day ACH. So I'd probably call that out as number one. I think this,
Well, and that one is amazing because I remember when it first came out, and a lot of us were like, "Oh, come on, who's going to use this?" And now we look at the numbers, and it's like it has become almost the preferred method of ACH because of how many transactions, and really too. You mentioned use cases, and the problems it solves for is what is amazing too.
Yeah, I think we're here. We're in like our seventh year of being live. We're going to do about 800 million same day ACH payments this year. Moving multiple trillions of dollars for payrolls and bill payments and B2B. Whatever those core ACH use cases are, same day ACH makes them better for some parties when they need to use them, when it makes sense for them. I think it's not for every transaction. Standard payroll payments every 2 weeks don't need to be on a same day basis, but others do. Right? Many B2B payments, the due date well in advance. They don't need to be same day, but others do. And so it's great to have that option there for the users of the system to use it when they need to, when it suits them. That's kind of how we view, same day ACH, and going forward, we're looking at how can we make that a better offering and expand the use cases for that for the system users.
But okay, knowing how impactful same day ACH was and is, you said that's number one. What's number two? I've got to know. I mean, you piqued my curiosity.
Number two was, I think, acknowledging, accommodating, and creating the internet initiated payment, which is actually more than 20 years old. We've had internet initiated ACH payments for over 20 years. If you're the nerds we've been referring to, web, it's the web entry right in the ACH system. But that has been a growth engine for ACH across a multiple number of use cases. I'd call out bill payment in particular. Kevin is when you're around us and you're at all these conferences, we talk about getting rid of the check and checks declining. And a lot of that has happened because bill payments by check have migrated to bill payments by internet. And it's one kind of ACH payment. Well, I guess it's a check payment, which could have been converted to an ACH payment, but it's been substituted for by an ACH payment. And that has been a tremendous driver of ACH growth. A lot of newcomers in the space who bill consumers, never had the experience of, collecting millions of checks every month. It's just all been, ACH by internet, from the start for them. And ACH supports, other internet initiated types of transfers like account to account transfers and loads into digital wallets. So that the internet initiated transfer is really how ACH is integrated into online commerce, wallets,
Mike,
accounts.
I know some people that I meet, and we mention things like this because it was so big at the time and for years. And they're like, oh, I don't get it. Why is that such a big deal? And they don't realize there was a time before the internet.
Exactly.
And when the internet came along, we had to make sure we did it right.
Yeah, exactly. So, so those are my two.
Those are big. Well, Mike, I got to say thank you so much for being here. Nacha, for the rulemaking, overseeing the ACH network, the events that you provide, the education, the certification, bringing on innovations like same-day ACH. It's an incredible organization. Folks, if you want to learn more, you can go out to nacha.org, and it's at org, O-R-G, nacha.org, and you can learn more about them. They've got a lot of information that's out there. And if there's a topic or maybe there's somebody you think that needs to be on the payments podium, you can email me, kevin@paymentsprofessor.com. I will do all I can to be able to get them on the payments podium to voice their opinions or to speak to the topic of your choice. But for now, I got to say, class dismissed.
Thank you, Kevin.